Hello people, this is Code Grind, and in today's video we'll be continuing our Neumorphism UI series. In the last video we talked about how you can create buttons based on Neumorphism. I will give a link in the description box and you can also click on the link above to view that video. And now in this video we'll be talking about how you can create forms based on Neumorphism, and this is how our final project will look like. We have two fields with the input button and also an image over here. We have a button, the switch button, from which by clicking on which we can switch between light mode and dark mode like this. So this is what we'll be creating today, so let's get straight into it. So here I've got this basic layout ready. I have linked an external CSS file in which we'll be doing all the styling part. So let's get started with our HTML part now. First, I will have a div with the class container. This is the div in which around which we'll wrap all our elements. The button with the type is equal to button. This will be the switch button. We also need a class for it. Let's get a class of switch button. Yeah, this is it for the button. Now we'll have our form method. Let's get a method of post and switch the autocomplete to off. Yeah, this is it. Now we need the image. So I have this logo of Code Grind over here. I'll be using this image, and let's get an amount of Code Grind. Yeah. Now we'll have three different divs. Let me first create them. So these are the three different divs in which we'll have our labels and the input fields. So the first level will be name, then we will have the input type is equal to text, and we'll give it an ID of name as well, and then let's give it a placeholder, enter your name. Yeah, so this is it for the first input type and label set. Now we'll have the same for email as well. And the placeholder to enter your email. Yeah, this is it for name and email. Now at last we'll have our submit button. So button type is equal to submit, and submit your form. So this is it for the HTML part. Now let's get into the styling part. So to begin with the styling, first we will nullify the browser's default settings by this asterisk selector, the margin 0, padding 0, and the box sizing of border box, and also give it a font family of Poppins. So I have got this font from Google Fonts. I've actually installed it in my system. If you want this font, I will give a link in the description from where you can download it. Now let's continue with the styling. Yeah, so this is all done. Now first we will design the light mode, then we will get into designing the dark mode. So for the light mode, let's first design the body. We need to align everything to the exact middle of the page. So for that we'll be giving the display flex, justify content of center, main height 100 vh, and align items of center. Then also the text align center. So this is it. Now for light mode we won't be using this pure white background. I actually have selected one background. So the background color will be EBF5FC. This is a background with a slight bluish touch to it, and we need a color of 222. So these are the two colors which we'll be using for the light modes and the dark modes respectively. Now let's design the switch button. So the switch mode button, the class which we'll gave to it was switch button. Now first let's give it a background color of 222, then a color of EBF5FC, then we will be giving it a padding of, let's say, 10 pixels. A padding of 10 pixels and 25 pixels. Yeah, so we got it. Now let's remove the border from it, give it a border radius, so let's say 7 pixels. Now the values which I am using, I already tested them and I prefer that you should use those values only. Now let's give it a margin bottom because it is stuck with this image over here, so we need to give it a margin bottom. Let's say 4M, and then outline of none and a cursor pointer. So this is it for the designing of the switch button. Yeah, now we need to design the form over here. So for designing the form, we'll select the form at first, dot container form. Let's give it a padding of 3M, and yeah, 3M is fine. Yeah, so the padding is applied to it. We can't see it because the image is too big right now. Let's give it a border radius of 10 pixels, and we also need a box shadow. Oh, let's do the box shadow at last. First, let me resize this image because it is so big that everything else is not visible. So let's first give it a height of, let's say, 70 pixels and a width of 70 pixels as well. Border radius of 50%. Yeah, the image is now resized. Now let's give this a box shadow. So the box shadow is the most important part of neumorphism, and whatever box shadow I'm using, I prefer you should use that shadow only because it will give the whole effect of that soft element to our elements. So this is what I'll be using. 0, 0, 0, and then at last 0.2. Yeah, so we have got this box shadow over here, which makes it look like it is something of a 3D thing. So this box shadow gives us that 3D effect to the form. Now let's design this image and copy this box shadow and give it to image as well. So we have got this 3D effect to the image also. Now let's design the input groups. First we will give them a display of flex and a flex direction of column. Yeah, now a text align of left and a margin top of, let's say, 1.5 em. So this is it for the input groups. Now let's select the label and decrease its font size because it's too big to 0.9 em. Yeah, this looks good now. Now let's design the input fields. Yeah, so a margin top because this label and the input field are too close to each other, so we need to give it a margin top so that we get the spacing and they don't look too congested. Now we need to change its background to none. Yeah, so that the background is similar to that of the body. Now let's remove the border. We don't use borders in neumorphism because they just kill the effect of neumorphism. Now the box shadow which we'll be using, we want this input field to look like it has some depth, like it is pressed. So for that we'll be using the same box shadow but with some different settings. Like we want it to be inset. Now what this inset is, I'll be telling you. So we've got this effect like it is pressed. So now what inset does is it provides the shadow to the inside of the element, but if we don't give this inset keyword, the shadow will be outside of the element like a drop shadow. But with the inset keyword, the shadow is formed inside the element like inner shadow. Now when I click on it, we get this outline, so we need to remove this outline. Also need to provide some padding to it. So for padding, let's say 10 pixels and 20 pixels. Yeah, so this is it for padding. Now let's give it a radius border radius of 30 pixels. Yeah, so this is it for the input fields. Oh, one last thing, a color of 222. Yeah, so when I type, we get this 222 colored text. So this is it for the input field. Now let's design the submit button. Now we need to remove its background as well. Actually, we should not remove the background. We should give it a background color which is the same as that, because we will be changing this background color, so we need to provide it with a background color. Now let's remove the border from it as well. I am again reminding you that never use borders when you are working with neumorphism. Now let's copy this box shadow over here. So right now, as you might notice that we have got this shadow outside of the element, but if I provide with it with a keyword of inset, then the shadow will form inside this button. So this is what inset is used for, and this is just the complete basis of how neumorphism works. Now let's create a padding as well, a padding of same 10 pixels and 20 pixels, a border radius of 30 pixels to it as well. You can always do your customizations, it's completely up to you. Remove the outline and a cursor of pointer. Yeah, so this is it for it. One last thing which I always forget, a color of 222. Yeah, so this is it for the button. Now let's design the dark mode. So this is it. This is what our light mode will look like. Now what we need to do is whenever we click on the switch button, we need the whole form and the body to transform to the dark mode. So for that we need to get some JavaScript done. So let's get into the JavaScript part at first. At this last of the body tag, at the end of the body tag, first let's select the switch button. Yeah, we have selected it. Now let's select the container. Yeah, now we will run an event so that whenever the switch button is clicked, so for that switch button dot add event listener, click, and we'll run an arrow function. So whenever it is clicked on, what we will do is we will add a class of dark to the body tag like this. So whenever the switch button is clicked, we will add the class to the body tag, and we will define some styling to it as well. So whenever a body has the class dark, its background color will change. Background color will change to 222. Yeah, this is it. So what we need to do is in here document.query selector, we need to select the body tag, and to the class list we need to toggle the class dark. So what toggle does is if the class dark is present, it will remove it, and if it is not present, it will add it. Let's see it here in the inspect element. Yeah, in here the div, yeah, the body tag right now doesn't have any class, but when I click on the switch button, we get this class dark, and when I click on it again, the class dark is removed. So this is how the class list.toggle function works. Now you see it all gets changed, but now we need to apply some more settings. First we need to toggle the class of dark to the container as well, and now we will get into the CSS part. So here we will start from top to bottom. So first we need to style the switch button. When the class dark is applied to the container, we will change its background color to EBF5FC and the color to 222. Let's see if it's working or not. Yeah, this is working. Now we will also change the box shadow of this form. So the box shadow now for dark mode is something different than that from the light mode. The values will be same, just the opacity will be changed. So the alpha, that is for opacity, will be now 0.05, and then 3 pixels, 3 pixels, 5 pixels. So here by the comma separator we can just add multiple shadows, and now the opacity will be 0.5. Let's save it and see if it's working or not. We switch it. Yeah, we get this different box shadow this time. Now we need the same box shadow for the image as well, so we will give it to image also. Yeah, so the image also got this box shadow. Now let's design the input fields. Yeah, now we will change their background color to EBF5, no, 222, and the color to EBF5FC, and the box shadow will also be changed. And one very important thing, the inset keyword will be added. Let's see if it's working. Yeah, it is working. Now we need to change the color of the label because it's not visible right now. So the color now will be EBF5FC, and here also we need to give it a color of 222. Yeah, so this is visible. Now let's design the submit button at last. So container.arg.input group button. We will change its background color to 222, the color to EBF5FC, and the box shadow will be this one. So this is it for the dark mode. Now here when I switch, it gets changed between the two themes. So this is how you can create a form, a switching form where you can switch between light modes and dark modes. So if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you have any queries, you can drop a comment down below, and don't forget to watch the previous video and keep following this Neumorphism series for more further videos. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more such amazing tutorials on CSS and JavaScript, and thank you for watching.